This week on the Unamplified Podcast.
Welcome back to the Unamplified Podcast. My name is Cynthia Mbamalu, your host, and we're back on set for another amazing episode. And today we have our co-host.
Hi guys, welcome. I'm glad to be back as a co-host. I wore a very bright color today to show my joy.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. But I was like, I'm loving this mustard on you. Interestingly, today we're discussing mental health, and we have two amazing guests. One is the returnee guest, and another is our first time on the Unamplified Podcast. Wow. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation today, and welcome, Valerie Uboke. I hope I got this surname well.
Yes.
I was practicing that in my head, like I need to get this right.
Yes, you did well.
Yeah.
Thank
She's
you
a
so
psychologist, and she's also the founder of Private Mirrors.
Yes.
I'll ask you about Private. That name was I'm like, Private Mirrors. Okay. It's good to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and Jemima
Hello.
Haruna. The last time you came, you were shaking table. You called millennials suffering people.
Wow.
I say you are used to suffering.
We're used to suffering. But it's good to have you back. Today we're discussing mental, and I know you're a writer and you also write on mental health issues. Yes, so it's good to have you back on set. And we'll just drop right in. Mental health. What is mental health?
In simple terms, when we talk mental health, we are talking about your emotional, psychological, cognitive, social well-being, right? So it's all encompassing. A lot of the times when people hear mental health, they think automatically something bad, but it's really just about the well-being of your emotional health, your social health, your cognitive health, and how that relates to you and others around you, how it affects you as a person and your relationship with everyone around you.
Wow.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect. It's perfect.
It's perfect. So why should we care about our mental health?
Because it affects our daily lives. With mental health, some people struggle, some people are fine, or they can just look past it. But it affects how we interact with other people, how we're able to reason, how we're able to think. It affects everything in our life. So we really should care about it like our own physical well-being. If you are sick, you're not just going to ignore it. So you should actually take care of your mental health like it's a physical sickness, because it can actually manifest physically as well.
Wow, so take care of our mental health like it's our physical, because I know for a lot of us, and I'll pull in Ayo here, you have a headache, you have a migraine, you have a pain in any part of your body, you're going straight to the hospital, like this has been here, I need to fix that. But because I'm wondering, but how many of us wake up like, okay, I need to see a mental health doctor, for instance, like there's something not going on well internally. It's not physical, and I need to attend to that. I don't think we even think of mental health as important part of our well-being. What do you think?
For me personally, I always think of mental health as like an important part of because it affects me, like physically. Like sometimes, like say, I think I have undiagnosed social anxiety. Because sometimes, like when I was in uni, I couldn't go to like the student center by myself. Like if I went there and then it was crowded, like I would feel like I was about to throw up. Like my stomach would be like churning. Then when I get back to my room, I have to like catch my breath. Like I didn't even walk that far, but like I have to catch my breath because of how much it affected me. So yeah, I have had the thought many times to be like, I need to see a therapist or something, because yeah, to me mental health is very front and foremost in my mind. I always think about it.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of us, we experience different forms and variants. But I think perhaps maybe our society or how we are raised, you're like, and if you come from a religious background, like I'll pray about it, I'll be all right.
Bind and cast.
We'll bind and cast to be all right. I remember one time a priest shared a story, and I'll let you guys weigh in on this. And he was I'm talking about mental health, and he said he never knew he would preach about this from the altar, and because ordinarily the way he would have said, we need to pray about this, or there is an evil spirit somewhere. But then he had this period in his life, I can't remember what happened, but he said he just checked out from reality. Like he was speaking to no one, and he didn't know, he just couldn't speak, function, nothing. He couldn't even celebrate mass. So at a point, the bishop, because in the priesthood there's all these chains of command,
Right.
and then they had to take him to a specialist, and he had to undergo treatment, and he was going through therapy and all of that. And so then he was talking, he said he never knew mental health was something to take seriously until he had an experience and he realized he basically couldn't function. And it just got me, do you have those kinds of experience? Do you come in contact with people that have those kinds of experiences where they're like, okay, I need to look into check my mental health out? That's one. The second part, what are the various or different forms of mental health issues that we have as humans, basically?
I think, first of all, it's important that we understand and look at mental health on a continuum, right? It's very, very broad. So let's say on the left part or the least part of the continuum is you're flourishing, right? You're able to think properly. You're able to manage your emotions. You're able to interact with people as best as you can. And the middle part of that continuum is temporary mental health issues. So let's say you lose someone, right? These are not things you encounter every day, but they happen from time to time, right? You lose someone or something traumatic happens at work, or there's a collective trauma of the nation like NSARS. We all felt that, right? Right, now that's not something that happens on a day-to-day basis, but it is something that is bound to affect you mentally, right? So we would term that as a temporary mental health issue. And then on the extreme is mental illness. Right. Unfortunately, when people hear mental health, they think automatically mental illness. Okay. Right. So when we're thinking mental illness, it's not that it cannot be solved, so to speak, or you can't work on it, or you can't function properly with a mental illness. It simply means that you need more help. So that would mean medication, for example, in combination with seeing a therapist. So it's important that we just know and understand that mental health is on a continuum. Now, in terms of the ranges, so we have mood disorders. That's the most common. Anxiety, depression, right? That's what everyone talks about. That's what everyone talks about, anxiety and depression. But even within anxiety and depression, there's a lot, right? So when we talk depression, for example, people automatically think, oh, it's when I'm sad. To be diagnosed for clinical depression, we have to literally check you for a bunch of lists and see that you check all that list. So for example, has it been consistent for 6 months? Or has it been consistent every single day for 2 weeks? Right? Are you able to function? Functionality is the key thing there when we're looking at someone dealing with depression or any mental health issues, really. Is it affecting your ability to function? So you talked about social anxiety, right? Anxiety, for example, is something we would say it's good anxiety if it propels you to do what you need to do. It's bad anxiety if it makes you avoid what you need to do. So if you have a project or you need to meet people, and as opposed to, garnering the courage to actually do those things, you'd completely avoid it, shut it down. Someone is inviting you out, you're saying, nope, I'd rather just stay in my house. Nobody should disturb me.
This is what I'm believing.
Nobody should disturb me. I'd rather stay in my house, because there's that fear, that anxiousness. You are already projecting the worst possible outcome when it comes to anxiety. And then we have personality disorders, and then we have stress and trauma related issues. So mental health issues are very broad, right? So when you think mental health, don't automatically think mental illness, right? It could be something as simple as, I'm feeling down today and I'm unable to work. I'm unable to have a conversation. What are some things I can do to help me get back to my usual self? So
Yeah, and as we were talking, I just realized, because I think the priest was talking about he became depressed and he felt, as a child of God, as a servant of God, I shouldn't feel this. And I think perhaps those are the things that made it worse until he literally could not function. He couldn't do anything. And he was numb. He said he according to him, checked out of reality, basically. And so, Jemima, I was just, the last time we were talking about one of the things Gen Zs care about, and we said, Gen Zs, any small thing, mental health. That's what they are always throwing around. And I wanted to get your perspective around it. What do you think are those like mental health issues, and why is it important to Gen Zs? Let's put it that way, because I think they've made it more popular. Because for almost every Gen Z I interact with, there are times we just, either they throw it in. Some are serious, and I have to consider what they are saying. But some I just feel like, are you looking for another excuse to get out of this task? But I wanted to get your perspective on this.
So for Gen Zs, I look at it same way you said, the serious ones, and then the ones trying to use it as a social media trend, because that's what it has become.
Yeah.
I don't know if you all saw this one on Reels. They were doing intrusive thoughts versus impulsive thoughts. They were trying to compare impulsive thoughts to intrusive thoughts. I know you know that intrusive thoughts are common in especially OCD and all that.
Yeah.
And they were trying to compare
OCD is for our audience.
Obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah.
So they were trying to compare, I just suddenly want to cut my hair, to actual intrusive thoughts like I'm fearful, everybody hates me, or intrusive thoughts can even go as deep as to like sexual assault kind of imagery. They were trying to like compare that to intrusive thoughts. So I think with Gen Z is also like this social media thing with always wanting to be trendy. You are trying to accept things you shouldn't accept, or that you don't really understand as being your reality. So that's why I think it is with Gen Zs. And for the ones that are serious, you see that those people have friends going through mental crisis, or they themselves have been through mental crisis. I have been diagnosed with clinical depression, generalized anxiety, panic disorder, and there are some ones that have not been diagnosed, but those are the ones I've been diagnosed with since I was like 20. I'm 25.
So wow, you don't look 25. You look good for your answers. I have to blot that out. I want to be like, you are? Are you sure?
So it's been 5 years.
21.
I've done therapy, then but I don't do therapy anymore because I wasn't comfortable with it. Therapy works for some people, therapy doesn't work for a lot of people. I would advise you still go see a therapist and you try out at least 3 or so therapists, because it might not be therapy that's not working for you, it's the therapist. My first therapist looked like Santa. He looked like Santa. He was an old white man. His office was decorated with books, and he was like homey. He was very nice. But I didn't feel like I could open up to him, basically. So that's the thing with therapy. You have to find the therapist that works with you. If you try and you see that this is not working for you, you have to look for other ways to explore how to get better. But also therapy also helps you understand what is going on with you. Like, are you sure you have generalized anxiety, or do you have OCD? You might be confusing your diagnosis. But that's another thing. That's why I think like Gen Zs have really tried to also push that out there, but they're also what's it called, self-diagnosing.
Yes,
which is very bad.
I was literally about to make a comment on that, because I get a lot of people coming to session and it's like, I already know what's wrong with me. I just want you to help me. I know what's wrong with me. And it's like, okay, let's actually walk through it step by step, and you realize what they think was wrong with them is completely off. Right? So you have a lot of people diagnosing themselves. It's very unhealthy, honestly, because what that does is you give yourself an identity that isn't you, right? You make your struggle your identity, and at the end of the day, it's not even your struggle. Right?
Wow.
So it's really a big problem.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to how they say, like, if you're feeling symptoms, don't search it online.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly.
Like you have headache and then all of a sudden you have cancer.
Tell you have a
You are pregnant.
disease.
So,
true. Don't search it. I'm one of those, when was that? 2019 or so. I had a fibroid, and one of the things I think I shouldn't have done was to go online, reading it before going for the scan. I know at first I was feeling certain things, and I'm going online, I'm typing things. At one point I'm like, oh my God, I think I have cancer. Oh my gosh, I think my life is about to end.
Like one time,
so many
I was
things before I went to the hospital.
I was interning at one place, and they were doing like this campaign for this foundation that was about like a girl that died of like cancer of the blood. So they asked me to make like quotes and stuff that they could post on social media. So I had to start researching things about blood cancer and leukemia and things like that. And then the symptoms I was seeing were things like normal things like night sweats, stuff like that. I was like, Jesus, I sweat at night. Oh my God, I have cancer.
Yeah, I mean, going online never works because finally I went to the hospital. I just realized it was a fibroid. I was all right. And then I had the surgery and I was fine. So I'm like, and I think for mental health, when you talked about it, a lot of people are we sit down most times like, I'm depressed or I have this, I have that. But a lot of times, most of us actually have not even gone to see a specialist, to check us out. And I'm wondering, are there stereotypes that exist?
Yes.
Around mental health?
Yes.
What are the stereotypes?
That were mad.
That were mad?
Yes. Really?
Yes.
The main thing, especially in media.
Yes.
It's mainly when you think of all the movies you have seen about a character that is going through something, they are usually portrayed as somebody that's mad.
Yes.
Or a killer.
Yes. Or that's somebody that's incapable of taking care of themselves, which, sometimes it is the case.
Yeah.
But they make it seem as if you don't know how to take care of yourself or like any other person. Yeah. They usually use it against women a lot. Like, there's a movie, Tyler Perry, he's the man.
Diary of a Mad Black
He's always making black women,
the
especially. Diary of a Mad Black Woman.
The Diary of a Mad Black Woman.
Tyler Perry's movies and women, they are just...
He always portrays women in this way that they are mentally unstable. In the most stereotypical way.
I think I didn't like the acrimony. Because it was like... Yeah, that was the...
Something as simple as like the crazy ex-girlfriend trope in general. And that's where a lot of people start to get their so those people that are pretending, so they get their personalities from these TV shows. So they see a character that is quote unquote has like a personality disorder, the way they are being portrayed, the way they are stalking people and all that, and they're like, oh, it's not my fault, I just have a personality disorder. I'm like, girl, no.
Exactly.
Also, what's it? 13 Reasons Why and all that glamorized suicide.
Yes.
That make it seem like all these teen shows, is mainly teen shows, I've noticed that they glamorize suicide and hypersexuality and everything. So they make it seem like, it's like the same way you said, it's just my personality kind of thing. It's more dramatic than it is. But then cases like 13 Reasons Why and suicide, you don't notice these things. Yeah, it might be the happiest person on earth, and you just see when they commit suicide. But in like all these movies, they make it seem like you always have to show the symptoms of depression, like in the most stereotypical way.
No, I 100% agree with that. That's like the major stereotype is that when you are struggling with your mental health, you're mad, right? That's like especially in this part of the world, right? And I think there's a huge gap there when it comes to sensitizing the media on how to talk about these things or how to even portray it in movies or in series, right? So 100% I agree with you.
Yeah, and then within the context of religion, because I feel like that's also where there is this major conflict in a way. Because you have, I gave a story of the priest, right? Yeah. Now within the same parish, now this priest is sharing his experience and saying he's going through therapy and everything, and he's glad he's now functioning and all this. Also has medication. Now within the same place where he's trying to create an awareness, you have people saying, Father, they're not praying now. It's like he's not a believer. When you're a child of God, then he that is in you is greater than he that is in the world. And so it was like this is someone who has a platform trying to create awareness, but you still have those who just believe like if you're Christian, you can't claim or come out to say you have mental health issues. So how do we, within this context, what are your reflections?
I would honestly say, that when it comes to religion, unfortunately, I think people just inherit what they've seen or what they've been taught. Because I'm a Christian, so I'll speak from a Christian point of view. Now, personally, God created me to have emotions. Yeah. I'm not a robot. I'm not a machine. Maybe very intelligent machine, but right? God created me with emotions, with feelings. There's no way that the person that created me would ask me to suppress my feelings or would ask me not to acknowledge my feelings, right? It's part of being human, right? Your emotions, your thoughts, your interaction is part of being human. So when you bring religion into it and you take away your humanity, that's no longer religion. That's no longer Christianity, right? It's strictly religion, right? And it's strictly you being wicked. Honestly, it's wickedness. I would deem it as wickedness, because if you are trying to preach love, right, and someone has come to you, or someone is coming to you to say, I am struggling, and what you can say to them is, go and pray about it. Yes, there's a God that listens, but he has put us as human beings to help each other, right? So what are you doing as a human being to help the person that is asking you or telling you, I'm struggling? So honestly, it's wickedness. That's what
I'm directing this out to you because I've had friends that are struggling with mental health right now in Nigeria. And the thing that most of them have come to tell me is that they go to therapists and they tell them to go to church. They tell them therapists tell them to go to church.
You know what? I've had a lot of clients come to me and say that, my previous therapist was just bombarding me with scriptures, was just bombarding me with, go to church, you're not praying well. So we have this group where sometimes we just rant about the problems of therapists that are just not practicing ethically, right? And there was a case where unfortunately, the lady had been raped, and the therapist said to her, well, if you weren't wearing a short skirt, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Or if you didn't go and see him at that time of the night, maybe it wouldn't have happened. That's completely wrong. Right? So as a therapist, it's not your place to demonize the person based on their struggle. And it's not your place to impose any sort of religion. Right? Ethically speaking, you should not bring your personal beliefs into session. That's not how it's done, right? Because we have various people coming to see you, Muslims, Christians, people who are traditionalists, in fact, right?
Those who have no...
I don't necessarily agree with a lot of people's beliefs, but it's not my place to impose what I believe on them, right? It's my place rather to hear their struggle, listen to them with empathy, and work with them. Sessions of therapy is collaborative work, right? We are collaborating to see what is the best way for us to deal with what you're struggling with, right? So I'm sorry to anyone that may have experienced a horrible therapist or experienced a therapist that hasn't been ethical in their approach. From the bottom of my heart, I apologize, right? That's not how therapy should be done, honestly.
Yeah, because, when you were talking, I remembered one of my young mentees, and she said she was going to therapy. Why she stopped was because she found out the therapist was giving her mom information. Like basically everything she was, expressing during the therapy session, the mom basically had information about that. And even when she said she wanted to stop, how she finally ascertained was when the mom was like, why did you stop going to therapy? Your therapist has stopped giving me information. And she went to the mom like, that is exactly why I stopped and I want to change. And mom was like, no, you will go back and you will continue with that therapy. And then when she went back, she will just not speak. So maybe we'll talk about the management when it comes to mental health management system. I'll look at it from different perspectives, both what exists policy-wise to cater to mental health, whether within Nigeria, within Africa, and then also on the part of the professionals in the space. What is there a system to checkmate to ensure people do not become victims? I'm going for help to get some healing, and then I receive more damage. That kind of thing. What's the management system like?
Let me first address the confidentiality aspect, right? So, except you're a minor, right? You're not supposed to give out information of your client without the consent of the client. Right? Except maybe it is in a case where we can see that the client is going to be of harm to themselves, or they're going to be dangerous to themselves or people around them. Okay. Then we have the right to, say something to someone. But otherwise, you're not supposed to give information of your client to someone without their consent and without them being a minor. So that's one. In terms of the management system, I'm not sure where to start with that. To be honest, I'm not sure where to start with that. I mean, we do have a body when it comes to psychology. I think we still have a long way to go, to be honest, when it comes to having specific systems to check the professionals that are practicing, right? That's my honest thoughts about that. We have a long way to go when it comes to psychology in the country, but also we don't have enough psychologists in the country, psychotherapists, psychiatrists in the country, right? So there's also that thing of the load is too much. You know, there's not enough people to actually prefer help to the people that need help. That's what I would say in terms of the system.
I have a question actually. So you know how doctors can report other doctors for malpractice in suits? Can the same thing happen with therapists? Like if, like say that doctor, for example, could you report that person to a certain board to take action?
Yes. So in an ideal setting, yes, there should be. Now with Nigeria, is like I said, we still have a long way to go. But generally speaking, yes, you are supposed to have that body that you can report a therapist or a psychologist that is not practicing properly or that is going against ethics, right? So you'll be able to like call them to order or withdraw their license, so to speak. So you
at least you have experience with therapy. What you, from your experience, what are the challenges with that management system? And then Ayo, have you gone to therapy before? Well, let me start with you.
For me, all my therapy sessions took place abroad. None of them have been in Nigeria. Okay. So it's in Switzerland. So it was pretty smooth for me. Everything was easy to manage, easy to handle, especially because I had very good insurance. But I know here it's harder to access. It's very expensive. I think sessions are like 30K for some places. Per session. For one hour session.
1 hour.
1 hour session. 30K. Who can afford? Somebody's salary is like 100K. How can you afford it? And then you have insurances. Nigerian insurance is rubbish. They don't cover anything at all, and they're so expensive for basic physical insurance. Talkers of the one that covers for mental health, it only covers very few sessions, or they'll tell you there was a policy I saw. It cover the cover for psychology. What is it called? Therapy. Was 10K.
Oh wow!
That doesn't cover one session. So there is, for me here, from what I've seen, there is no system in place for people to access mental health.
There's no system in place. Ayo, what do you think? I know a lot of us don't talk about those kind of, but have you tried to reach out to a therapist before, or have you tried to even use a health insurance package before for mental health issues?
So for me, I feel like up until like middle of last year, I didn't even know that we had therapists in Nigeria.
Oh,
I'm serious. True. I was watching a show with my parents and they were going for like Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and all that. And then I was like, do we have this? And then my dad was like, yeah, we do. And I was like, where? Because I have never. That's when I started researching and I was like, oh, we have therapists in Nigeria. And then I was like, because sometimes I feel like there's something like called seasonal depression, if I'm not wrong. And I feel like I have it sometimes, especially when the weather is like gloomy and all that.
Dark weather.
And then sometimes during these days, I'm like, oh, let me look for a therapist. I've asked around. I've just never actually taken the final leap to make a call.
The final leap. And so maybe issue of access and affordability. And I'll pull you in because this is your space. Why are you guys expensive? It's like you don't want the average citizen to be healthy mentally.
I'm sorry.
30K 1 hour.
No, I understand, to be honest, because as she said, there aren't a lot of them, and there's a high demand, so the price has to be high. But then, why is insurance not covering it?
Okay. I will say though, that as much as we have private practitioners that charge a high fee, there are actually organizations that try to make it accessible to everyone, right?
Okay.
So organizations like Mentally Aware Nigeria Initiative, organizations like the Sunshine Series. So the Sunshine Series actually collaborated with the Ministry of Health, where you can actually dial 112 if you're based in Abuja, and you can speak to a counselor for free.
Really? 112?
Yes, you can speak to a counselor for free, right? I recently went to a conference last week, a mental health conference, and the organizers also, they're partnering with people to also bring up a helpline where people can call in and speak to a trained counselor for free. So as much as we have private practitioners that are charging, their charges are very valid. I'm not even going to say, yes, you guys should reduce your... It's very, yes, I am. It's very valid. However, there are organizations, honestly, that are trying their hardest to make it accessible for everyone. Neem Foundation also, right? Neem Foundation works with people in the northern regions, right, that have experienced conflict.
Very important.
You know, so there are lots of organizations that are trying to make it accessible. And then the new mental health bill as well has implemented or has passed that it should be implemented into our primary healthcare system, right? So like I said, we have a long way to go, honestly, but baby steps. I think we're getting there.
Because I think, we have baby steps. I agree with that. Because one major challenge I've heard people talk about is it's expensive. Yeah. I was talking with someone the other day and we're just like, let's go see it. The person say, you get 30K for 1 hour to drop. I was not like, the person said, my friend, let's just go and talk to ourselves and we heal each other. Because if you want to think about this economy, you can't be doing it. And it just got me thinking, you can imagine there are many people with mental health issues, right? But if we look at our current economic realities, how many citizens, how many individuals can afford mental health care? And then issues around insurance. When you talk about insurance, do you remember? I just said, I even think I need to also look at my insurance package, what it covers, if it actually covers for that. And even within the where I work, my organization, to start even negotiating with most of our service providers to say, okay, part of the package, we want to see mental health properly catered for within our insurance, because we do pay a huge sum of money, right, to also cover for that. Maybe it would make it easier to access, mental health care. And in the light of this conversation, I wanted to get your perspective on two important things. First, is there gender dynamics too?
Yes.
Mental health issue?
Yes.
100%. As with everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
The way you pronounce it. And then the second part, what are the major challenges with mental health within our continent when it comes to mental health? But I think the gender dynamics is what I want to really hear.
I don't know if you can back this up, but women face more mental health disorders than men.
Women, yes, are more likely to experience.
It's mental health.
Okay, more likely. Okay.
Yes, they're more likely to experience, and they're more likely to talk about it. Men, on the other hand, yes, they will. For example, with suicide, men are more likely to actually act on the ideation. Women have more suicidal ideations, but men are more likely to act on it. Right, so there is with a lot of mental health issues, there is a gender dynamics to it. Even with depression, right, you find that women actually are more likely to experience.
Why wouldn't we experience just your cramps alone is enough to give you
our
depression?
Hormones are a lot. They're a lot, and they tend to affect our moods a lot of the time. So yes, there is a major gender dynamics when it comes to mental health.
And I feel like women, one of the things, especially as African women, we are raised to bear the suffering.
Yeah.
I think that's also that is I can't verify this, but I also think that's why our suicide rates are maybe a bit lower, because women generally are taught that we have to bear pain, we have to bear all this suffering that is just part of how we are. Men usually are just taught, okay, maybe provide, pay. They're not really taught to bear the suffering and the pain.
On the contrary, I think men are more in this society or in this part of the world, men are taught to actually hold the pain more than women.
Or maybe not express the pain.
Women are more expressive. Yes, we've been taught to endure the suffering, right? But we express it in whatever way.
And I think maybe that's what makes it less likely for a woman to act.
Exactly.
And when you just said this, I just did in my mind a quick mental run around. One of my classmates had a mental run around reports on news on suicide in Nigeria. And honestly, all the news on suicide are all men. Anytime you say, oh, this guy jumped off, there was one in Lagos. Oh, this is basically, I think it was just one that was a female, a teenage girl, a student. I saw that on Instagram or so. But most of the ones that made it to mainstream traditional media were men. And I didn't even think of this. But perhaps it's also part of our culture. I don't know, Ayo, if you want to weigh in on this. So looking at how we are, like I know how I am with my girlfriends, right? My friends, when we're there, whatever, we talk, we share, we can do 1 hour, 2 hours talk. I have like 3 sisters, so we're like 4 girls, so you can tell we talk a lot. Like our phone calls go into 2, we have a group like call, and 2 hours, one of my sisters called and she's like, I'm going through a lot today, I just need to let it out. So she just called us and we were gisting, everyone shared, laughed. And I just realized perhaps maybe that is what makes it less likely, because for a lot of guys, I don't know if guys are as expressive, if they share what they are going through with their peers, and if they are willing to talk to a therapist.
I think it's also beyond expressing, to be honest. It's also the people that you even want to express yourselves to.
Yeah.
Have they made you comfortable enough to express yourself? With men, one of the things I look out for when a client comes to see me is your support system. It's very big. Community. The community you have. Now with us, yes, as women, you'd find that we have that talk to people express yourself. But it's also on the other part, the people that you're talking to, have they given you a safe space to express yourself? I don't think men have that a lot of the times.
Because I've noticed that a lot of times, even when there is like a man that wants to share with his friends, they have to preface it with something like, oh, no homo, or something like that. It's like, why can't you just be normal? Why can't you just talk?
Oh, actually, I usually hear this no homo. I always wonder, like, why do you have to say that? Like,
why do you have to say it?
Vulnerability
Even
is a problem.
like the way like girls hugging their female friends is normal. Like sometimes guys can't hug each other. They're like, and I knew someone when I was in school, and he was the kind of person that liked to talk, right? And then all his friends, they were always like, guy, why are you getting so emotional? Why are you getting so deep? Like the only people that he could talk to were his female friends. So it's like, and when you get to the hostel, your female friends are not there unless you want to be on the phone like 24/7. You're basically isolated, alone. You can't express what you want to share. So I think that's also part of what feels a lot of men have a lot going on inside.
Yes,
that we just don't know about.
They just need someone to hug them and make them feel safe. And so as we're just, because I've always, I feel like for every conversation there's a gender dynamics, right? And most times we ignore that part of the conversation. But in this world that we live in, with the rising cost of living and the hardship in this Nigeria, even the weather is even too hot these days, right? Everyone is going through it. How do we achieve this work-life balance that we say is good for your mental health? Work-life balance. How can we achieve that if we're hustling to make ends meet?
You know what?
Yes.
I would say work-life balance is, unfortunately, is pertinent. Like, it's important that you try to achieve it. But it's also knowing that it's not a 50-50 thing. I need to achieve 50% at work and like balance 50% with life. It's rather figuring out what works best for you. What is your personal dynamics with work? If you have an unhealthy relationship with work, you want to check in with yourself. So even as we're sort of encouraging people to seek out help from a professional, there are things you can do on your own for your mental health. Okay. So achieving work-life balance, for example, is learning to sit down with yourself and learning to understand, first of all, yourself. Self-awareness. huge advocates of self-awareness, right? You have to understand yourself, understand what makes you tick, understand what makes you happy, understand the things that give you a sense of joy, a sense of purpose or fulfillment, right? If your job is not doing that, if your job is actually your stressor, you want to sort of check with it. Now I understand that with the economy, everybody is focusing on making money. Cost of living is like, actually, I woke up angry this morning. I'm not even going to lie. I woke up angry this morning at Nigeria. Yes, at Nigeria, because I'm just like, the cost of living is going up. The people that are also suffering, but they're making the system even worse. Like the cost of rent right now.
Oh, landlords have gone crazy, increasing the rent.
It's ridiculous. And I'm just like, you're complaining that people are doing horrible things to get money, but you're making it harder for the average Nigerian.
Because you're not the one maintaining the house, you're not building a new house. Why are you increasing the rent? We need to check landlords. Or what do you Yeah, well, I get your
honestly,
point.
yes, right? So I woke up angry. So back to the drill. It's important that you understand yourself, understand what makes you happy, understand what your stressors are, and understand what are the little things I can incorporate into my day-to-day to actually lessen the burden. So work-life balance is not about, okay, I need to work 20 hours, 4 hours, I'm going to sleep. No, within the 20 hours, what are the things you can do to make sure that the stressor that you're experiencing can be lessened, right? That's literally work-life balance.
Yeah, do you remember?
Oh, I'd just like to add to what she was saying, because it's true, you can't have 50-50 in work-life balance. There are many things you can do. Let's say you come back for a stressful day in work. Not everybody wants to go and, let's say, try a fun new activity like they normally say, try a new hobby. It can be something relaxing, but still peaceful, like building a puzzle. You can journal. I have a anxiety coloring book. Okay. I carry it everywhere. If I'm going out, I carry it, and it's something that just helps your mind calm down and relax and focus on something else. So there are many little things. I know you normally see, like in self-care, you just see do 10-step skin routine, do.
She's giving you side eye.
I know, but I said that's why I say I know you normally see that, but there are other ways you can incorporate self-care. That's because that 10-step beauty routine is already stressful on its own.
So it's not expensive.
It doesn't help.
I mean, it can in the moment it can help you feel relaxed, right? That's a physical thing to do, but ultimately there are other things like mindfulness practices that you can engage in. This is why I say understand yourself, because she can be talking about coloring and journaling and you'd be like, what's that? I don't want to sit down. And I have clients who are very creative, artistic. They don't like writing, they don't like journaling, so they'd rather paint, right? Or they'd rather engage in something creative. The purpose is for you to have an outlet. Go to the gym, work out, take a walk, right? Take a nice cold shower, because it's really hot, so I wouldn't say hot shower. Right? Yeah. But know what works best for you. As long as you are present in the moment of you doing that activity, that's what's important.
What about watching comedy?
Yes, absolutely.
That's
even like
what
watching movies, reading a book, even. Even like maybe during the work day, you can just like at lunchtime, you can just leave the office, go for lunch. You don't have to sit
in the same
environment.
My dear, lunch is expensive. To enter a restaurant and they give you 10,000.
You can carry your food that you can carry your food that you bought from home and go somewhere.
Go somewhere and eat.
You just eat outside. You just change your environment.
Exactly.
Oh my God, I can't even believe. I mean, I'm enjoying this conversation, but sadly would have to, draw the curtains. I'm here, but I wanted, like, if you had to meet with the government and you want to give them an advice on what they can do better to support the mental health management system in Nigeria, and what would be that one advice you would give?
I'll say collaborate, right?
Yeah.
Because it's important that you collaborate with stakeholders, people that are experiencing mental health issues, professionals that are actually helping these people experiencing mental health issues. Collaborate with them to train more people and to know the best way forward in making mental health services accessible to everyone. So collaboration would be the top of my head. That's the one thing that comes to mind. Yeah,
that sounds amazing. Yeah.
For me, mine would be work on the economy. Work on making the currency more stable. Work on making because, like as she said, you wake up angry already because there's so much to pay. How do you have time for joy? You get up burnout, stressed. You can reduce a lot of this and reduce the amount of people that suffer more mental health crisis if you try and fix your economy.
So fix our economy. Ayo.
I would say we need to incorporate mental health into schools, into like the curriculum. So like, you know how in school you had physical and health education.
But like only physical. The health was not
exactly. We should have like actual like courses and topics on in the primary school level, secondary school level. They should be learning these things so they know like it's not just what you're seeing on TV. It's not all these stereotypes. This is what it is, and these are the actual symptoms. This is what you should do if you think you're experiencing this. This is who you should talk to, and things like that.
Yeah, that's very important because a lot of people are learning online. And what you're learning on social media is not accurate. So most times you're projecting what is not you. Like you said, taking on identities that are not yours, struggles that are not yours, right? But I also remember when I was doing my master's outside, one of the things the school provided was you had free counseling session. You could go for therapy. In fact, the school was also intentional. We had what we call the quiet room during, if you feel like you needed time somewhere to go, you go to the quiet room where you could rest. It was like mental health was part of the planning. And I think we need to start seeing that in schools because a lot of students are dealing with a lot of things. They need someone to talk to and they can't afford to see a therapist, right? But if we have that as part of those services that students can have access to, I think it would also make things easier, especially for the younger generation. There's a lot of pressures that can make you vulnerable, and I think we need that kind of system in place. But ladies, I feel like we need to continue this conversation because I'm really interested in mental health, because of the stereotypes, but because also we don't have a lot of education around it. We don't have a lot of information on where to access mental health care, and so a lot of times most of us are left to deal with it on our own. But it's been really amazing having this conversation with every one of you. Thank you so much, Valerie.
Thank you.
I didn't get to ask you about private mirrors, but the name already indicates it's something amazing. And I don't know, do you want to promote private mirrors?
Sure. I mean, you can reach out to Private Mirrors on Instagram at private.mirrors. Mostly work with clients that struggle with depression, anxiety, grief, stress, and trauma-related issues and relationship issues. I've been getting a lot of relationship issues after Valentine's, but
oh yes, you know, some people were served breakfast, some people were thinking they were in something but received nothing, unfortunately. And so that's the sad tale. Jemima, it's always good to have you here. And I know you love to write on mental health issues, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Ayo, shout out to our audience, please.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you comment your thoughts on what we spoke about in this episode, and share to your friends, your family, share to your acquaintances, share to everybody.
Yes.
And don't forget to follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, or X.
And
make sure you stream us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yes. And to our crew behind the scene, thank you so much for making every episode look amazing. And we always end with a cheers to Africa. So everyone, so when you're on, you're amplified. Cheers to Africa.